911 emergency.
This is Elijah.
What?
Elijah, you know Elijah?
No, I don't.
Well, they know me down at the police station. Well, hey, why does that keep beeping like that?
It's on a recording.
Oh, hey, a recording. That's great. You're not being recorded?
Yes, sir.
Hey, that's great. I want everybody to hear about me. Pretty soon I'll be world famous.
That's the truth.
I'm going to Jerusalem pretty soon. God's going to take me his way, a spaceship. UFOs, you better believe it. They're everywhere. Everybody has seen. Millions of people have seen them all around the world.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, that's right. And God bless the police officers and the scientists and the ordinary people that talk about these UFOs, for they do exist, and I know all about them. I'm a ufologist. I'm the #1 scientist on this planet. I'm an authority on them. I'm a scientist.
Okay.
Yeah, you heard of Albert Einstein?
No, but I'm going to have to go. I got other
Well, I can
emergency
explain it to
calls.
you. His formula of relativity.
Well, I don't have time to hear Einstein's theory of relativity.
But it's very simple. E does equal MC squared.
That's right.
Okay, Emmanuel equals the Messiah coming the second time. It's elementary, my dear Watson. Einstein was a Jew, and I'm a Jew, and very few people in the world understood him. That's right. I'm an engineer, I'm an electrician, a plumber, everything. I can do anything.
Well, that's wonderful.
And I'm the world's greatest entertainer.
Well,
I'm worth about $50 million a year.
Elijah, I got to go now.
Okay, God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Back here where we need ya. Back here where we need ya. Yeah, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Crystal Beach, Ontario, Canada. If you would like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And we're coming to you tonight around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and Talkstar Radio Network. And of course, if you'd like to watch the Xzone TV channel that is exclusive to Simul TV, visit www.simultv.com. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Paul Ascough, and we're going to be talking about UFOs. He is the author of UFOs, The Real Story. And Paul, welcome to the X-Zone.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Paul, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've been in the medical field all my life, a qualified nurse, qualified occupational health nurse, paramedic. I was a clinical advisor for my last 7 years and recently took my retirement, which allowed me the time to write a book and, sort of just give more time to my pursuits, which is ufology and the paranormal.
Now, before we go on, I'd just like to let our listeners know that you are in the United Kingdom. Whereabouts in the United Kingdom are you, Paul?
I'm in the best county of Yorkshire, right in the centre, and I live quite close to Leeds.
Well, that is wonderful, sir. And thank you very much for joining us tonight here in Canada. And I understand it's about 6 o'clock your time.
It is, that's right.
Yeah,
Lovely evening, or rather lovely morning.
Well, we thank you again. Paul, how did you get interested in UFOs?
Well, I wasn't as a normal child. I don't think they come into your life pretty much. And I was 11 years old. We'd just moved to a new property. And my father ruled with a rod of iron, shall we say. He wasn't cruel or anything, but he was the guy who you certainly did as you were told. And myself and I had a younger brother. I had just had my 11th birthday, so this is a lot of years ago, 1968. So there wasn't the light pollution, there wasn't the air traffic, there were no police or ambulance helicopters that there are now.
Right.
And we had this routine where we had a disabled war veteran lived next door. He only had one lung. And we used to take his dog for a walk and our dogs for a walk, take the dogs, come back in, put them away, say goodnight to our parents, go to bed. That was the routine. This evening, we'd been out, taking the dogs, my brother and I. We came back, and my father was in the front garden. And now we lived on the edge of a very small village, very rural, and we looked due east. And from our home, looking that direction, there was nothing whatsoever. The terrain was very flat. And my father was in the garden. We went out to say goodnight, and it was just getting dark. It was almost dusk, and the first sort of constellations were coming out. To the north of us and straight in front was this really sort of quite clear bank of cloud, and then the north part of the sky was completely covered in cloud. But the southern half of the sky was very clear. So the three of us were sat there looking at the sky, and my father was pointing the first few stars out. And as he did that, 2 UFOs came out of this bank of cloud very, very quickly, and then just stopped dead. And if you can imagine, like they were in a V formation, but one missing. So there was one slightly to one side and slightly behind the other. Now, they were about the size of maybe a dime at arm's length. They were quite large, really. And they were brilliant pearly white. And you could, when they stopped dead, you could actually see the light from them reflecting off the surface of the cloud. Now, as this happened, I got this voice in my head very clearly. And don't ask me why, but it felt a friendly, benevolent voice, and it just sort of said, it was words to the effect of, oops, we hadn't meant to have been to be seen. We should have stayed in the cloud. And I got that quite clearly in my head. Now, afterwards, asking my father and my brother, they never heard anything at all. And there was no sound from them. And they remained stationary for a few seconds. And then immediately, they were moving very quickly, going away from us, moving due east to what was then an old coal-fired power station, Fort Marsh Power Station. Now, they just sort of stayed in that formation. They never moved relative to each other. And as they moved down the edge of this bank of cloud, you could see the light from them still shining off the surface of the cloud. And as they moved, it was like they had this small sort of atmosphere around them, this sort of corona. And it went where they were circular, when they were stationary. As they moved, they had this smallest little like teardrop shape, as if this atmosphere was coming off them and dissipating. And they moved very quickly away from us, no sound whatsoever throughout. And the three of us were just sat there, mouths agape, looking at the sky as you would do. And we were silent for a long time. And my father was the first to speak. And he said, well, there's nothing we've got that can do that. And that was, it was mind-blowing at the time.
I imagine so.
For me, go on, Rob. So go on.
No, I was just saying that I imagine so. It would be very mind-blowing.
Yeah. And the thing was, it was, and I say this relatively sort of looking back, when you speak to other investigators and you speak to witnesses, and from the eyewitnesses that have spoken, and when I've been investigating these things, they all say it's quite unequivocal that it was definitely not from a man-made thing. It was so, for want of a better term, it was so obviously alien.
Were there other reports of this UFO that were submitted to the authorities, to the Air Force, or to newspapers and other media?
Now, this is the thing. But when you see something like that, it was so obvious, and immediately my thoughts were, well, I wanted to know the nuts and bolts, the physics behind it. How can something actually move like that and look like that? And then the other thought was, why don't I know about it? Why isn't it in the media? Why isn't it on the television or in the newspapers? And that's what set me off. And from then on, I really wanted to know. And as you were aware then, sort of in the 1960s, there certainly wasn't the internet or even cell phones or anything like that.
That's right.
So you had to get off your butt and get out there and do the homework, and I had to go to my like the larger cities, catch the local buses, get the bus service or the train, to even find a bookstore that stocked books on UFOs or the paranormal, anything like that. Because your local library, there was nothing like that then. So you had to get out there and do the research that way.
All right, Paul, stand by. You and I have to take a break. And Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Paul Ascough. He's the author of UFOs, The Real Story. Now, Paul, is there a website our listeners can go to?
I do have a Facebook page called It's The Real Story. If you just go onto Facebook, search and put It's The Real Story. And then the sightings I get and any investigations I do, photographs, videos, I put them all on there. All
right, Paul. Stand by. As I said, we've got to take our first break. And Exo Nation, once again, if you'd like to find out more about our guest this hour, Paul Ascough, or if you'd like to find out more about his book, UFOs, The Real Story, just check him out on Facebook. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Crystal Beach, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Back here where we need ya. Back here where we need ya. Yeah, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome.
Looking in your eyes, I see a paradise. This world that I found is too good to be true. Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Let them say we're crazy. I don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby. Don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart. Baby, we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this thing together. Standing.
Welcome back, everyone. My guest is Paul Ascough, and he's the author of a new book entitled UFOs, The Real Story. And Paul, was that your only UFO sighting?
Oh, no. I've had many sightings. What happened was I tried to document these, and I was with Bufora for many years, which is the British UFO Research Association. It's like our equivalent of MUFON.
Right.
And so after looking at these, I've had many, we've taken photographs, we've taken videos. I put them on that Facebook page. But also, what I got into this was because people tend to just do pieces of the pie, if you like. And I believe that the paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, from the electromagnetic spectrum were all connected. And if you imagine, for the listeners that don't know, our normal visible electromagnetic spectrum is less than 1/10 of 1% of what is out there on our spectrum. You've got radio waves at the high end, then it comes down through infrared, then we have our visible light and our acoustic spectrum, then it goes down lower through the ultraviolet, X-rays, and then gamma rays at the lower end. Now, we only see that tiny, tiny portion. I believe that if you look at the cosmologists now, and these people with far better brains than I, and they're sort of estimating that there's dark energy and dark matter make up by far the largest majority of matter and energy in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the sort of figures that they're bandied about at the moment are even as high as 90 or 95%. Therefore, those visible spectrum and the radio waves, infrared, gamma rays, X-rays, the things that we normally associate with our bit of the electromagnetic spectrum, could be less than 5%. So therefore, we are seeing just the smallest fraction of what is available. And because of my investigating and the things in the research which I have done, because people tend to do just a story, like they'll do, we'll say for an argument's sake, the Roswell incident, or in England, the UK, we get the Rendlesham Forest incident. And cryptids, looking at Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, wherever you come from in the world, people tend to stick to that subject. So what I've tried to do is say, by putting this book together, it's showing people that there is a connection, and the connection is the electromagnetic spectrum. And that's how it's, or I should say that's why we don't find evidence, and that's why we find difficulty getting photographs of UFOs, getting photographs of Bigfoot, because they're on a different frequency, they're on a different type of energy. Does that make sense?
Yes and no.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
All right, because over the 32 years talking to people who have had Bigfoot encounters, who have had UFO experiences, it's only the very minute minority that have ever said, well, I had a UFO encounter and there was a Bigfoot as well. Or I've had a Bigfoot experience at the same time other people in the same area were reporting UFOs. So I have a bit of problem trying to understand how this is all related. I understand the electromagnetic theory. I do, and I think that's wonderful. I also understand the frequency and and our vision frequencies and what we can see and what we can't see, the different light spectrums. But if this is the case, why would there be so many photos of UFOs that are coming out? Why are there so many videos of UFOs? And why would so many investigators who are out there investigating the various UFO sightings look for something tangible instead of something in the electromagnetic field?
Well, sorry, Rob, that is the problem. The thing is, because we only normally record, see and hear such a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. If you imagine, one of the analogies that I give in the book is, if you imagine our electromagnetic spectrum as an old vinyl LP, as a record, and that is from the gamma rays up to the radio waves at one end, that is our sphere of energy that we deal with on a daily basis. However, with the dark energy and dark matter, there's not just one record, there's a whole stack of records. And these are the different energies and frequencies that the UFOs use. If I say ET as a ballpark phrase for people to understand, so ET is on a completely different record to us, the same as cryptids. I mean, we get lots of sightings, eyewitness accounts from Bigfoot, from Mothman, Dogman. There are all these plethora of cryptid things. And it's the same with the paranormal, with the spirit realms, the spirit world. They're on a different frequency. They're on a different record. And just occasionally, people are in the right place, or I do believe we get geographical locations too. Obviously, the Skinwalker Ranch being one, but there are these places all around the world, and many of them, where the records almost touch and almost overlap, and therefore it becomes easier, where these high energy places, for these to overlap. And that's where you do get a lot of sightings of cryptids and a lot of sightings of UFOs too, as on the Skinwalker Ranch as an example. Does that make more sense?
Not really. I'm trying. I'm really trying to understand it, because if what you're saying is true, now I have to ask you: have you any evidence to substantiate your hypothesis?
Oh, well, there are lots of evidence, and it happens all the time. You get UFO sightings where people don't see anything, and then they will suddenly appear. There was the Gaffney incident in the US, where part of that, there was a whole thing that went on with the police and all sorts. But a young couple were parked up and actually saw a disc-shaped UFO come over towards them that was see-through, and they could see through it. And then as it became solid, the trees that it was very low over burst into flames, which again would be natural with something coming down through frequencies, coming down through the infrared into our visible light. Infrared generates heat, and that's what would happen there. I mean, they rang the authorities, the police and the fire turned up. The fire service put the fire out, but it was long gone and that was it, and the police just took statements from them. There was also the Robert Taylor Decmont Woods incident in Scotland, where he initially saw it as an invisible thing, and it was transparent and see-through, and then it became solid. And therefore, these are all examples. I mean, there are lots of examples on video as well of things appearing. How many witness eye statements do we get of things that suddenly appeared or suddenly disappeared? And
but is it because they suddenly disappeared, or were they suddenly noticed?
Both.
Well, you see, this is where I have a problem. For example, the theory about UFOs being basically invisible, and this is why pictures can't be taken and so on and so forth, makes no sense, especially when some of the UFOs have actually been tracked on radar.
Oh, sure.
And if we're talking about the electromagnetic field, they wouldn't appear on radar.
Yeah, sure. Because if you imagine how far we've had, I'll just sidestep a little. How far we've advanced in the last 100 years, you imagine a race that may be 1,000 years in front of us. Therefore, I believe completely that they are masters of the whole of the electromagnetic spectrum, not just our bit, not just our record, but the whole stack of records.
Okay, all right. Listen, I've got to take my news break at the bottom of the hour. I want to continue this when we come back. Exonation, sure. Paul Ascough is our guest. If you'd like to find out more about Paul and the book he wrote, which is entitled UFOs, The Real Story. Paul, is your book available on Amazon.com and other online stores?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, but as an ebook, audio, paperback, and hardback.
Okay, great. Exonation, not now. At the end of the show, buy, check out, and read this book. Once again, the name of the book is UFOs, The Real Story. Paul Ascough is our guest, and he is the author of that book. And Paul and I will be back on the other side of the news break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Crystal Beach, Ontario, Canada, right across Lake Erie from the city of Buffalo, where, according to the news today, we're going to be able to drive into the United States as long as we have proof of our vaccinations, which Laura and I do, as well as our family. So, hey, we're going to go to Buffalo to have some great food at Pete's Market again. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling.
Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Hotline. If you are obsessive compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. If you are codependent, ask someone to press 2 for you. If you have multiple personalities, press 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you are paranoid, we know what you are and what you want. Stay on the line and we'll trace your call. If you're delusional, press 7 and your call will be transferred to the mothership. If you are schizophrenic, listen carefully and a small voice will tell you which number to press. If you are depressive, it doesn't matter which number you press, no one will answer you. If you are dyslexic, press 69696969. If you have a nervous disorder, please fidget with the hash key until the beep. After the beep, please wait for the beep. If you have a short-term memory loss, please try your call again later. And if you have low self-esteem, hang up. All our operators are too busy to talk to you.
Well, I spent a lifetime looking for you. Single bars and good time lovers were never true. Playing a fool's game, hoping to win, and telling those sweet lies and losing again. I was looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching there.
Welcome back, everyone. Paul Ascough is my guest. He's the author of UFOs, The Real Story. And the book is available on Amazon.com as well as all other fine online bookstores. All right, Paul, here we've got UFOs that are being seen or not being seen, tracked on radar, not tracked on radar.
Sure, yep.
Yeah, okay. So why do you think the government may be covering up the existence of these UFOs if, in fact, they pose a threat to national security?
I think that was part of the misperception at the very beginning. I think UFOs have been coming and going as long as we've been on the planet. And we are taught the problem was that you have to go back to the end of the Second World War. And if you imagine, people then were afraid, and it was there was a lot of nuclear, there was the Cold War, there were a lot of things that people were afraid of. And what happened in 1952 with the UFOs that were seen over the capital, the US capital at Washington, you have to think at the time, a lot of people have just been demobbed. You'd got a lot of ex-service personnel, and people were reporting. There were hundreds of people, and there were photographs and video. And then they were told, it was the actual official explanation was that it was a temperature inversion.
Right.
And what they did at the time then, I believe it was like from that moment onwards that they've tried to keep a lid on it, because what they didn't want people panicking. They wanted people to feel safe. And these things were just coming and going as they pleased, and they had no control over it whatsoever. And that was the problem. I mean, like the Battle of Los Angeles and all these other instances where things happened in different parts of the spectrum, if you like.
All right.
Where they were being shot at then,
right,
but there was no apparent damage. And it's the same now. We've just had the report, report to the government, but they only took in from 2004 onwards. They also said they commented on the gimbal UFO, the Tic Tac UFO, and they were saying there's insufficient evidence and it does need further investigation. And there are things out there, and they admitted to 3 instances, those 2 being 2 of them, where they had sort of trained observers as pilots that could see them, so that was normal visible spectrum. The craft were picked up on radar from the carrier fleet underneath them, plus they were also videoed on the gun cameras in infrared of the aircraft, the F-18 Super Hornet.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. This is what we've been told. But, however, when it comes to actual identification, no identification has ever been made. And the question I have for everybody who talks about UFOs is that with all the hacking that goes on computer, data centers around the world, Russia, the United States, China, if a hacker wanted to upset the entire United States or any other country, all they have to do is break in and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is evidence that has been suppressed, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. So if that information is really out there, why hasn't it come public? Why hasn't somebody hacked it? Look what happened with the whistleblowers in the United States and the information that they've been releasing. Thousands of pages of data. But there's nothing about UFOs. Absolutely nothing. How come?
Well, again, because they've been covering it up, Rob. And one of the things
But
that we, as
okay.
investigators, we say is that this report, which was put out then, they actually admitted that they have 80 reports where they've got something unidentified on the three mediums.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
If, and this is my belief, that what they actually encountered were terrestrial experimental aircraft, or aircraft that was actually sent into the area to see how the fighter squadrons would react. I don't think that what they saw was from another planet. I really don't. Because if UFOs are a fact, and they have been observing Earth for any given time, why haven't they interacted with us? And I listen. I've heard every connotation that, you know, the what is it? The prime directive not to interfere. Well, if the prime directive is not to interfere, why are they interfering in our airspace? And if they really are there, and they have no malice towards humanity, why don't they just land? Why don't they just let themselves be known? Why don't they help us cure the sick? Why don't they help us feed this planet? Why don't they help us clear up the pollution? Why don't they help us clear up the climate? Why don't they do that?
Yep, I agree with all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the explanations, as you said, that people try and get out of it is by saying this no interference thing, that you have to do things by your own efforts type of thing. And if they intervened, therefore they would be crossing, and that, you know, that bridge that they shouldn't be doing, that they would be interfering, and they shouldn't be helping us. We have to do it by our own efforts. Yes, I do come across that a lot. But going to the electromagnetic spectrum, back to that, because I believe they're complete masters of it. That is why they can come and go as they please. Mm-hmm. That is why we don't have, that we're aware of, real, a lot of clear video. Now, having said that, with modern technology and the mobile phones, the cell phones that people carry, people can now just video things, put them straight on the internet for people to watch, for people to look at. And we are getting hundreds and thousands of reports and photographs put on. Now, the problem with that is you need corroborative evidence. It's okay somebody saying this was a light in the sky, which does happen very often. But we'll go for argument's sake, the UFO over Jerusalem in 2011, where they've tried to hoax that. Yeah. And that's because we had five different videos of that. Then we had a group that tried to hoax it and looks very similar, and just by chance that was the one that Fox News aired on their TV channel. But also you had hundreds of witnesses with corroborative evidence. It was even caught on the Jerusalem's weather station's own camera, on their security cameras. So when you look at all the things together, that's what you need to say, all right, it wasn't just somebody, you know, hoaxing anything. There was something really there. Right. But again, the problem with the authorities is they've been trying to keep a lid on it for so long, at least 70 years. And now I believe with this latest statement where they're saying they have 80 of these incidents where they've got things on radar, on video, whether infrared, and they've got credible observers. At the end of the day now, I believe that they can't keep a lid on it because, as I said, people can just put things on the internet. So what they're trying to do is just release the pressure on the pressure cooker, as it were, and just we're now getting this. I'm not saying we're ever going to get disclosure, because they're never going to admit to Roswell, they're never going to admit to Rendlesham. There are hundreds of these cases and incidences that they won't admit to. However, they're now making it the public more generally aware of it. And so we're getting this small drip feed of disclosure just to release the pressure off the pressure cooker.
Listen, I've got to take my final break, but here's a very fascinating statistic that since the Tic Tac and all the other videos have come out, there are less people who believe in UFOs now than there was then. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Crystal Beach, Ontario, Canada. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, and Mutual Broadcast Network.
Well, I spent a lifetime looking for you. Single bars and good time lovers were never true. Playing a fool's game, hoping to win.
Well, I just got back from Roswell, where the aliens have been. And if you ask the feds the cause, well, they'll only lie again. Now I'm hunted by the gumshoes, and I'm wanted by the cops, 'cause they think that I might be the guy making circles in the crops. And I know that there's a conspiracy from the voices in my head. Elvis lives, that's clear to me. It's McCartney who is dead. And if the Mars man should come again and take me, I will go. I will take a trip on their rocket ship. God bless the UFO. Give JFK this message. It's the Cuban Army's fault. And I know that Dave Koresh is alive inside a vault. We've seen reports in papers of a guy who knows about a car that runs on chewing gum, but the Arabs rubbed him out. And we loudly warn that America is badly unprepared. With the Cold War through, we need something new that can get you good and scared. Do you wonder just who is warning you of conspiracies today? We're the ones who fill the rumor mill. We are the CIA.
And welcome back, everyone. Paul Ascough is our special guest, and his book is entitled UFOs, The Real Story. Paul, we were talking before about all the cameras that are out there now. All cell phones have high-definition cameras, multi-speed recording systems. Everybody, there are webcams all over the place. Law enforcement use them. The military use them. Truckers use them. And yet there is no clear, decisive photograph or video of a UFO. How come?
I do. Sorry, Rob. I was going to say I do believe that we are getting more and more are recorded now, and more are put on the internet now. But again, you do get people that are good at CGI, and they still try and hoax these things. However, going back to the electromagnetic spectrum, if it's not in the right frequency, as in our small bit of visible light, or if it's an infrared camera, as in a good camera on the F-18 Hornets, what happens is it's just not there. The camera physically cannot focus on it. And that is why they're around us, I believe, all the time, but not in the frequency that we, at the moment, can record. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have technologies, and there may be technologies that we're not aware of that probably the military will be developing, like with these skunk works and these other things, where you have some of the best brains in the world that are working on this because they know of these problems. Now, that's the same where we get reports of UFOs that are terrestrial and stealth aircraft, things like that. the problem that we have as investigators is, where do you draw the line, and what is genuine ET, whether it's interdimensional or whatever, or what is a black budget that we will never know about.
But when it comes to national defense, do we need to know everything the government knows?
Oh, no, certainly not.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. However, in the sort of, dare I say, allegedly more transparent things where people have to account for budgets, there are still lots and lots of things. And I mean, one instance, my wife has a cousin who lives in San Francisco. He was a wealthy man, did a lot of money for charities, for the Variety Club of Great Britain and other charities as well. And while he was in Hawaii, was invited to a big function over there. He'd contributed quite a few things. And he said, Paul, I was sat there, everybody had been, we'd had a good night, a good meal, lots of drink flowing, lots of money raised for charities. He says, and we were sat on these tables of about 12 people. And he said, and I was next to this, a full bird colonel from the American Army, who was actually second in command of a listening post on the islands. And he said, he made it sound like Men in Black almost. He said, and all he was doing, his unit did, was log UFOs coming and going over the Pacific. And he said, obviously, the more drunk he was getting, the more he was telling me. He said, but obviously I was getting more drunk as well. He said, and I really can't remember, you would have given your right arm to be sat where I was. But it's like, why is things like that aren't public knowledge?
I think the better question here is, why is a full bird colonel so stupid and violating his oath? I wouldn't take his word whatsoever.
Well, now I can only say that's like everything. You can only say what you're given at the time,
That's right. It's his word, and a lot of people, when they have a few under their belt, they like to brag, whether it's truth or not. Well, seeing is believing. Let me ask you, what kind of research have you done on your electromagnetic theory?
Right. What I've tried to do is look at it, because when I saw the first UFOs, it was from the scientific point of view. If something like that is so obviously odd, so bizarre, that it's not obviously terrestrial, where can it be coming from? It was obviously controlled. Why did I get that voice in my head? And that is why I sort of tried to look at and do more research into the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, the more you go into it, and the more that the listeners would read, there are some really good scientists out there, Jacques Vallée being one, and he's put a lot of theories forward.
Yeah, he's kind of gone off the deep end lately.
Yeah, you're right. But the problem is, it's like anybody, when you pick a book up, is if you get too scientific, your readers that you're trying to draw in, that you're trying to interest and trying to kindle their interest to get them into the subject, they pick it up and think, oh, this is a bit heavy. I'll have to read this and come back when I can concentrate and understand it.
Right.
What I've tried to do is put my book into layman's terms so that anybody can pick it up and anybody can get the basics and anybody can sort of get that background understanding of how things work.
All right. I guess I want to know is, what expertise or education do you hold that would give credence to your research?
Absolutely none whatsoever.
So let me ask you this. Why would anybody listen to you if you've got no expertise? You don't hold an engineering degree.
I don't know.
So why would people listen to you? It's just a theory.
Exactly that, yes. And people have to put these theories forward.
But there's I agree that theories are good if you can back them up with substantial research.
Sure.
Where you've actually that you yourself has done. We all can't just sit back and do the research on the internet and write a book. To me, that's crazy.
Exactly, and that is why you need to do the research. You need to listen to what people are saying.
No. You're getting me all wrong on this one. What I'm saying is, you've written a book about UFOs, the real story. You've put out a theory, a hypothesis based on your research about the electromagnetic fields and the different wavelengths that we can see. Well, that is legitimate research because it's well known. But to tie UFOs, ghosts, and Bigfoot all together without any proof, and writing a book that is entitled "The Real Story." How can it be the real story if there's no proof or evidence? It's a hypothesis. It wouldn't a better title be, I think that this is why UFOs are real?
Possibly, yeah. But the thing is, when you're talking to these people, these are the people that have witnessed things firsthand. So they're giving you what they've seen, their feelings, and what they experienced.
But what is the proof that they supply?
And getting more information.
But what is the proof that they are giving you that what they are saying is true?
Well, that you will never know. But that is the thing. You will always get your version of what you've seen, their version of what they're seeing, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. But at the end of the story, if we don't get these people's stories together, if we don't do this research, if we don't take their word, at the end of the day, you're not going to get anywhere. You've got to go on what people experience.
An investigation is based on fact. You cannot come to a conclusion in an investigation without fact, without proof. It's just like when you're doing a criminal investigation, you can't make a charge unless you've got evidence.
Precisely.
So, and you see, this is where, in my opinion, that the UFO community is gone bonkers, because all they want to do is give a story based on nothing but hearsay evidence without any proof and have people believe them. And I think this is where the UFO community is going to start to tumble and tumble fast. Paul, I want to thank you for joining us. And Exo Nation, once again, the name of the book is UFOs, The Real Story. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break. No, I won't. This is the final segment. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. So until tomorrow night, from everybody here at the X Zone, Relmar McConnell Broadcast Company, and all our affiliates, and my senior executive producer, my lovely wife Laura, thank you for joining us. Take care, be safe, and always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night.
Every girl, closing time, one last call.